So LD38 just got wrapped up and the review process has now started. If you don't know, Ludum is a huge game development competition where you get 48 hours to create a game from scratch using only art and code you make yourself. As always, the theme was announced in the middle of the night, so when I woke up I was stoked to see that my favorite one had been selected. The theme was Small World. So I quickly pulled out the whiteboard and started sketching out ideas. I thought about making a 2D planet with changing terrain that the player would have to pass by and a city building game with way too little space to build on. I ended up scrapping both ideas. However, I decided to stick with the theme of using a small planet as the game world. The player, controlling a red car, would then drive around the planet trying to avoid meteors, and to up the difficulty, the planet would get smaller and smaller over time. With this idea in mind, I created a to-do list, and finally, it was time to boot up Unity. I quickly got some controls up and running, but for some reason I just couldn't get them to feel right. I tried a number of solutions, but kept on getting either jittery movement, back collision, imprecise controls, weird camera movement, and the list went on. Finally, I ended up using a mix of rigid body gravity calculation and quaternion.rotate to apply input-driven rotation on top of that. Satisfied with the movement, I jumped into Blender to replace the default sphere with a smoother one. Creating the meteors went really quick. I'd already implemented gravity, and so it was just a matter of using random.onUnitSphere to spawn meteors at random points around the planet, and onCollisionEnner to place a crater where they hit. Also made the planet shrink over time. I then created a fur shader using a tutorial by Alan Ciccone, and tweaked it to be used for grass. I generated a grass texture in Photoshop, played around with the lighting a bit, and added a gradient background. After that I did some post-processing, mainly the motion blur helped emphasize the action. I created some particle effects for the meteors. Being able to add noise to the particles made them look so much cooler. And finally, to finish the graphics overhaul, I modeled a quick crater in Blender. Happy with the look of the game so far, I went to bed at around 2 AM. After a good night's sleep, I felt ready to work on the car. Now I really suck at modeling, but I think from a distance it ended up looking just fine. At least after I blew it up. I now felt it was time to add a score counter to the game. I thought it would be fun to have UI elements follow the planet, so I made it interpolate towards the center as the planet shrunk. In fact, I liked the effect so much that I decided to do the same thing to the end screen. Now I've always been a huge Dragon Ball fan, and my planet really reminded me of King Kai's, so I decided to embrace it and add a single road that wraps around it. The car is actually also inspired by his. When it came time to making some music, I felt really inspired and hopped right into Busker Core. I ended up creating 5 different soundtracks. That's right, 5! I lost 2 of them because I accidentally hit the escape key. I mean seriously, why would that close it without warning? Why? The other 2 tracks just didn't fit the vibe of the game. They were too dark. So for the 5th one, I went for something simple and happy. Next, I created a main menu to which I added the player controls and a cool scene transition. I also slapped some quick sounds on the car and meteors and wrapped it up by creating an icon for the game. I submitted it just before the deadline. This is what I looked like at the end. Time for a bath and a shave. When this time my lovely girlfriend participated for her first time. You guys might know her as SophieBab from the forums. She made a game about avoiding people you know on the street. Also, she is now full-time on Brackeys as well, and has actually been doing most of the video editing the last 3 months, so big thanks to her. You'll find links to both games in the description. Go and play and review them all you want. I hope you will enjoy playing them, just a fraction of how much we enjoyed making them. That's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe and maybe check out some of the other behind the scenes videos I've done for previous Ludum Dares. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks to all of the awesome Patreon supporters who donated in March, and a special thanks to Derek Heemskirk, Faisal Marify, James Kellhound, and Jason the Tito. If you want to support the channel and become a patron yourself, you can do so at patreon.com/Brackeys. Thanks a lot, guys.